Does this old school style deck still work? Well, let's talk about that.
Welcome to MechlordGames!
Hey, what's going on, guys? MechlordGames here today. Sorry there hasn't been a video in a while, just been really busy, just trying to work on stuff and getting some stuff done. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I've been trying to work on this one for a little while, like getting text and stuff done and just kind of like fixing up some odds and ends. But what exactly deck are we talking about? Well, you see a star drawing here, but it has nothing to do with that. So the deck we are talking about is, yes, Archfiends. We are talking Archfiends. Is that such a bad thing? No, it is not. So Archfiends has always been one of my favorite decks previously in the past. And, I wanted to see if the deck was still playable today. And I've got a couple of replays to show you guys, but I'm going to analyze the deck and kind of go over the deck with you guys and explain whether or not it can work well or whether it can't. So, as you can see, here's the basis of the deck. We're going to go through the profile first really quick, and then we're actually going to get on to the replays. So you've got 3 Archfiend Emperor, 1st Sword of Horror, 2 Archfiend Commander, 3 Archfiend Cavalry, 3 Armageddon Knight, 1 Tour Guide of the Underworld, 3 Archfiend Eris, 2 Eccentric Archfiend, 1 Regeki, 3 Rhoda, 2 Trade-ins, 3 Upstart Goblins, 3 Pod Duality, 1 Book, 2 Archfiend Palabyrinth, 1 Bottomless Trap Hole, 1 Torrential Tribute, 2 Archfiend's Roar, 1 Ring of Destruction, 1 Compulse, 1 Vanity. Solemn Warning. Within the extra deck we have number 95, number 62, number 107, Divine Dragonite Felgrond, Photon Strike Balancer, Gauntlet Launcher, number 103, number 101, Pistel, Evil Swarm Excitonite, Abyss Dweller, number 52, Ghost Trick Alucard, Levier the Sea Dragon, and Mechcrypt Engineer. But this deck doesn't look too bad as a whole, does it? I mean, I hope not. But without further ado, let's get into the replays where we can see how it performs, because that's really what's important in this video.
Will it perform?
Alright, so me and my girlfriend, we dueled a couple of times, and I got some replays of me using the deck. So let's go ahead and check out replay number 1. Because it's if it'll load here. Okay, so it seems that it's loaded. Alright, so she is playing her machine deck, I am playing the Archfiends. So she goes ahead and goes into her Augur. So my turn comes around. I first start with Armageddon Knight, pitching Eris searching into Commander, Duality, end up grabbing Cavalry. Okay, now one of the things that everybody needs to know about Archfiends right now is it revolves around these 2 comboing off each other and having this in the graveyard. Now, this particular build that is used in this duel section isn't the one that you saw. This is before I made some changes to it to kind of experiment with it, in a little bit of a better sense. So, this build does not have trade-in. If we actually see here, there is no trade-in. I am running MSTs and running, I think, 3 Eccentric Archfiend. Or what else am I running additives of? Yeah, I think I'm running extra things in this deck build that don't need to be here. But I added in the trade-in because if you think about it this way, you can go Armageddon Knight into Eris. Eris searches out a level 8. You can trade in him, which you need him in the graveyard anyway, and then you draw 2 cards. And then you can go like Commander, Cavalry, get it back into him. So, I mean, it's a worthy strategy. But I didn't exactly have it here at the time, and I thought of it after, after I took a look at these replays. So, she goes Gear Frame, goes Instant Fusion, goes Nodin, brings back Augur, makes Gear Gigant, and then just goes Plus. And she's kind of set her hand up. So at this point, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to gain a little bit of advantage off this. Well, I ended up not really getting too much advantage off it. Sure, I searched into, Archfiend's Roar, which was good to do. And then I summoned Genesis, popped her monster. And, at this point, I was feeling confident, because I had MST, I had Archfiend's Roar. I felt pretty safe. But she just kept adding cards, and then she's just making plays, and she's just going off. And I knew that at this point, I wasn't going to live. So I knew that I had to stop Fortress's attack, go Eris, make her have to kill it with Fortress. So I'm still alive at this point, and I can go off. She sets a card, I MST it. So I Regeki, and then, at this point I'm like, okay, I'm going to attack with Cavalry. And I felt a little secure, but I still knew that she had a 10 goldfish, so I wasn't feeling entirely secure. And, I mean, I knew she had game anyway, because of the way her deck works, I knew she had game. But she could have had gamed this turn. She could have made 101, stole one of them, and then killed me with the 101 after crashing the fortress into whatever, taking a little bit of damage and popping it. But instead, at this point, I kind of, I ended up surviving, getting into another Genesis, and attacking with it. I really should have honestly went tour guide, and then brought back a monster, but I didn't. She goes fortress, and it's game. Because she had her her spell in hand. So let's take a look at this replay. She's using the same deck, I'm using the same deck. As you can see here, I didn't exactly open with my knight. So things this game are going to be a little bit slow. I draw into Archfiends Palabyrinth, go ahead and upstart into Rhoda. Okay, here we go, we get the setup going. Gonna go ahead, Armageddon Knight, dump Eris, grab Commander. So got my hand set up, just still need him into the graveyard. Still need him in the graveyard. That right now is the biggest problem. I might have to up the trade into 3 to make this deck more viable. But that is something I'm considering. So she goes Gear Frame, searches out Fortress again. She's not overextending this time. She's not overextending. But I have Vanities and Bottomless, so I'm feeling pretty safe right now. IMST, summon him, banish, pop that. Do 2,000 damage. Get him into my graveyard. So at this point, I'm feeling a little bit secure, feeling a little bit safe right now. But she goes Gear Frame, summons another one. I was stupid here at this point because I was like, I'm going to chain Vanity so she can't summon anything else. And then I'm going to chain Bottomless in response to that to get rid of it. And it didn't work out. The chain link was fucked up. I completely derped out there. And that could have cost me the game. But I have the Solemn Warning here. The Solemn Warning does cost me the game. I should have negated the Gear King Index. Instead, I decided to negate the Fortress. I didn't think that she had other monsters, but she had She had the freaking Dark Factory mass production, and she wins again with Dark Factory. So right now I'm doing pretty bad. And the reason why this deck does so bad is just because of how long it takes to set the plays up. That's the only thing that I'm not liking about the deck, is how long it takes to set up. And with a deck like this, you gotta really have some setup time. So I go ahead, pop her Solemn Warning, go ahead, dump Eris, search out him. Right now would have been a great time to have trade in, because I could have totally done some shenanigans, and this deck consistency could have gone through the fucking roof. But instead, here I am, sitting here, being holstered behind 3 back row. I was feeling kind of safe, but she goes she summons Fortress. I Ring of Destruction it. So I didn't want to take the damage, and I wanted to have her take some damage, so I did that. Go ahead and Duality. Decided to go ahead and grab the Rhoda. Rhoda into Armageddon Knight, summon Armageddon Knight, ditch Eris, Eris search. Just maximizing your plussing with this deck is as important as possible. I mean, it's very consistent. It is crazily consistent. But in these replays, just getting that Genesis into the graveyard was honestly the hardest thing to do. That was what cost me the game so many times, was just not having the Genesis in the graveyard. Well, I say Genesis because that was his original name, was Archfiend Emperor Genesis, First Lord of Horror. That was his actual name. But now that I got Vanity, I felt a little safe, but she had a 2k defense set. And at this point, just kind of wasn't feeling secure in my game right now. She Ragekis. She can't do anything else at this point. I go ahead, I Rhoda into that. Go ahead, get him into the grave. Archfiend's Roar, bring back Cavalry. Summon Commander, pop Cavalry, get back Genesis. Pop her monster and attack with Knight. She's storming Mirror Forces. So, in a way, she did a good thing, but she did a bad thing. She gave me my resources back for me to use again, which is completely fine. I drew Tour Guide, I went for Armageddon Knight just because I wanted more pluses. I wanted to get into my Cavalry so that, I made sure that I had stuff that I could do. And at this point, I think I had another Genesis in the graveyard. Oh, I didn't, actually. I didn't. Okay, that was kind of a misplay. Should have went Tour Guide. Instead I didn't. She goes, she top decks Instant Fusion, grabs Nodin, brings back Gearbox, makes Diamond Crab King, does some damage. I'm not too worried at this point because I still got life points, and she didn't really do anything else. So I go ahead and I draw Archfiends Palabyrinth, summon Genesis, pop her monster, attack. I still have the Tour Guide. But honestly, I don't think Tour Guide is needed in the deck. I really don't think it's needed. She summons Fortress, and at this point, I knew that it was just kind of game. Well, maybe. I set my MST so she didn't get rid of it. Ended up popping that. Couldn't do any damage. So she goes, well, that I could have won, actually, right here, because if you see what happened, I used Palabrynth to summon a level 6. I could have summoned a level 6 and attacked with it and won. I could have summoned another Genesis and attacked with it and won. Instead, I didn't think about that, and I decided to play it safe and go Photon Strike Bouncer. I should have summoned another level 8 from the deck instead of the level 6. And that pretty much cost me the game, because I could have made Felgrond right here instead of Photon Strike Bouncer, but the Photon Strike Bouncer worked because, oh, she uses a deck full of monster effects. I felt pretty safe with it. But she had a Dark Hole. I didn't know what she had set. I drew another MST. She draws, it's a Mighty Guard, she overlays, and it's GG. And she gets her hand advantage back so she could summon Fortress if need be. So I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. Use both of the MSTs to pop Palabrynth and GG. So we're gonna have to go and talk about it.
Will it perform?
So, does the deck perform? I'm gonna have to give it a no for these replays. Generally, I would say that this deck was pretty damn good, because back in the old day, this deck used to work pretty well. But now, in the new meta, like the new decks these days, are way too fast for this deck. And it's not even exactly that this deck is slow. It's just getting the Archfiend Genesis into the graveyard. Now, I can sit here and say, yes, it works, because it's consistent. But just because it's consistent doesn't mean it's good. So the 3 trade-in this deck are going to be the deciding factor on whether or not this deck is actually good. But I have not tested it yet with the trade-in, but I feel like it's a good idea, because you can search into a level 8 that you can just discard into the graveyard, which is where you need it to be in the first place. And then you just draw a bunch of cards, which just search into other cards and just draw into other cards. So in reality, this deck is pretty consistent. But the truth of it is, I don't feel like it's that consistent because of the fact of the playstyle. You need to be able to get him into the graveyard, and that is why I've had to go in and put the trade-ins. But like I said, I'm gonna have to give it a no. It's not a deck that really is strong enough to be able to hold up in front a game against the current meta. And I hate to sit there and be like, oh yeah, this deck doesn't really stand a chance. But in all honesty, it doesn't. I've seen a lot of decks out there that are playing right now, and they are so fast, they're so crazy, they're so consistent. Yes, this deck has the consistency, but it requires a certain degree of setup that I feel that this deck kind of lacks. I mean, as you can see in the replays, it was consistent as all hell. You constantly got the cards in hand to make the play. It was just getting him into the graveyard. So I went to have to opt in to trade in. But, if you guys think that this deck could work, absolutely try it out. See if you can maximize the potential of this deck. I mean, it's got a searchable MST. All of its monsters are searchable. This is searchable, which dumps your searcher, which searches things. You have searchers into the searcher, into cards. You have upstarts, you have trade-ins. I mean, the deck has some crazy consistency, but it lacks in being able to do what it needs to do. And that, to me, is the only thing that I really didn't like about the deck. Otherwise, I would completely give this deck a big, whopping yes. Just because the consistency, the potential, the power that it has. The deck has the power to do some crazy things. I mean, I've seen Archfiends do pretty good back in the older days. But now, it just doesn't seem like that now it would really be the kind of deck that, would perform and stand up to a lot of the big tier, high-end meta decks. So, that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about this video, about this series in general. I'm just going to discuss, certain decks. I'm going to go back to, one deck a video, one deck an episode, and just work on it. And I'm just going to work on some old decks. I'm just going to try out some old decks and just try out some old shit and, see if I can make it work. Because, honestly, one of the best things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is being able to go back to an old deck and know that old deck still works. So that, to me, would be something that, is really, really nice to see, and definitely far-fetched and a little bit different than, what a lot of the other, Yu-Gi tubers are doing, is, going back to older decks and, experimenting with old decks and seeing if they can, still remain competitive today with, the new decks. There's not a lot of people, that are actually doing that in the YouTube scene for Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's kind of my plan. This is, my idea for a series that I'm doing, so if you guys want to bear with me through this series and you guys want to, watch whatever content I make, absolutely feel fucking free to do so. I am completely thankful for whatever support you guys give me. Any support really is just absolutely incredible. You guys are amazing people, and my subscribers are the best. They're the best. They comment. They give me useful feedback. They give me information. That's exactly what you're on here for. Is on here for information, and if you're giving the information back, it really makes a pretty big difference. So if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. Post your comments in the comment section down below, and subscribe today for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos.